I'm Eileen Pitkeathly, and I served at Digby in 1941 to 1943.
And whilst you're there, obviously you served as a plotter within the
Yes.
operations room. What we're going to talk about, Eileen, is that as well as your time at Digby, we'd like to really discuss your career that you had in the RAF during those war years.
What was there to do in the NAFI at Blankney?
Nothing really.
Just cheese?
That's right, just tea and all the rest of it. Nothing else to do really. Yeah.
So if you wanted to socialise, it was Lincoln. You didn't go up to camp at Digby much at all?
Not very often.
No.
We were invited to dances in the sergeant's mess or something, and I went to one and I was ankle deep in beer, so I thought, no, that's enough, I'm not going anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to Ashby Hall? I think one of the squadrons had a mess there as well.
No,
Never went to
no, I
Ashby
never
Hall.
went there.
Okay.
We went to the assembly rooms in Lincoln.
Right.
We used to go into the hotel opposite it, and I can't remember the name of it. There's a hotel opposite the assembly rooms in Lincoln. Still there, because when I came up to Digby, I stayed the weekend in Lincoln with my daughter, and we went to this hotel for a meal.
Oh, right.
And I can't remember, what was it called? Was it the George?
Well, there is a George, yeah.
I think it might have
There
been.
is a George in Lincoln.
Yeah.
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 Did you ever get into trouble?
Me?
Were you? Yes.
No, not really.
You were never charged for...
Oh, no. No. Maybe by the skin of my teeth. But it
Never got caught.
didn't get caught, that's right. I mean, we used to go to dances in the assembly rooms and stay until the very end. And, you know, Lincoln, you have to run down all these steps to get down to where the vans were waiting to take us, you see. And we'd absolutely leave everything to the last minute, you know, and be hurtling down these steps. And if you missed that, that was it, you see. So that was the nearest I got to getting into trouble, yeah.
There were... You mentioned the Canadians were sending food parcels across. It was quite an international little community around Digby and Blankney.
It was, but I mean, in Lincoln itself, it was really a garrison town. I mean, there'd be sailors, and we got friendly with New Zealand pilots who were very young, only 17 or 18, and all they wanted to do was show us photographs of their home. You know, they were
Lonely.
so homesick, and yes. So I mean, there were Australian and New Zealand, you know, pilots there, yes, and also Navy and Army, of course, yes. Well, everything really. Absolutely crowded Lincoln was, yeah.
Did you ever get to visit onto any of the bomber stations then? Did they ever get invited up to...
To Waddington, yeah,
places like that?
yeah. And I got very friendly with one of the, he was an observer from Scampton, actually, yes. But I think he was killed, yeah.
Were there many Polish around? Any of the Polish crews that were based at Digby while you were there?
Yes, there was some, but I don't remember them. It was the Canadians I remember, because they invited us, the pilots invited us up, up to the WAF, up to their mess. And then they took us out to the plains and wanted us to climb into the Spitfires because we got short skirts on.
Hitching yourselves over the side.
That's right. I mean, we couldn't fly, but they invited us to get in and sit down, and they'd got a mascot. It was an owl. I can remember that.
A live one?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Can you remember which squadron it was? Of the Canadians? No?
We'll have a look at that. Yeah, there was a lot of squadrons there. I mean,
yes,
what year was that then?
That would be about 1942, I should think.
Oh, that's easy enough to know. There wasn't many there then. Okay.
So,
going on to 3, I suppose.
Right.
Did you ever fly in any of the aircraft?
No, we weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to.
None of the transport or training aircraft either?
No, we couldn't. Yeah. No, which was awful, really.
You fancied a flight?
I mean, we were plotting them and everything, and we couldn't.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that was because Peggy Balfour was offered a lift, a secret flight experience when she arrived, and she went, but she was sworn to secrecy and didn't tell anybody else about it. But I just wondered whether there were any other plotters who had done the same but weren't allowed to tell anyone.
No. Well, I hadn't anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever have to report sick?
Well, I did in Morecambe after I'd had one of these inoculations. It went wrong. It would be a smallpox one?
Probably, yeah, TB
yes,
or smallpox.
That's right. So I had to sort of stay in bed for a couple of days, I think it was, yeah.
Gosh. Uh-huh.
Otherwise, not at Digby, no.
Right. I was reading earlier today that one of the WAFs who wrote it, kept a diary, mentioned having Auntie Mabel talks.
Auntie Mabel talks?
Yes. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah. Well, I suppose so, yes. Now I think about it. Yes, how you should report yourself, yes. How you shouldn't get into trouble.
Is that what it is?
That's it, yeah.
Oh, right.
So they were quite being very careful.
To be ladylike.
That's right, and what you shouldn't drink a lot, you see, and this sort of thing, yeah.
Okay. And just going back to, I'm a bit all, I'm just remembering things as we go through. Back at Blankney, it wasn't just WAFs that were quartered at Blankney, was it?
There was some army, I think.
Uh-huh.
Some ATS, I think there were, and some army soldiers as well, yes. Right. I don't know, I'm trying to think what for.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose there were some liaison officers.
Yes.
And other male NCOs in the ops room, weren't there?
Yes, that's right. Yes, there were. Yes.
And they were Army and Air Force?
There was only a few of the Army. There'd be one or two, I would think. Okay. Officers.
Right, be the artillery officers. Yeah.
So were the men that were stationed or accommodated at Blankney, did they live separately?
Yes.
From the WAFs?
They lived separately, yes, yeah.
Whereabouts were they?
They were in the stables, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Slightly less comfortable. Mm-hmm.
But we used to see Lady Lounsborough entertaining all the officers. She had a flat and she had a sort of garden, and from where we were in the house we could see her sort of entertaining the officers there. Yes, and there were great big greenhouses, and they grew apricots and peaches and all these exotic fruits and things, strawberries, everything out of season as well.
Right.
Yeah, and so I mean, actually you see in peacetime the Prince of Wales used to go there a lot.
Oh, right.
Yeah, apparently, yes. So I mean it was a sort of hunting, riding sort of
area, really.
Area, yes, in peacetime, you see, and I think a lot of the Royals used to go down there.
So Lady Lounsborough stayed in her house?
She did, stayed in the flat, yes, yeah.
Did you see her often? Did she
No,
mix with the rest?
No, not really. She'd walk round the garden sometimes, we could see. We weren't allowed into the gardens. They were beautiful gardens, and it was such a shame that it was all destroyed.
I've walked round the hall.
I've been back.
Yeah, have you been back? Yeah.
Because when I was married and I got 2 children, I took them back to Blankney. I was invited, by this Mrs. Walker.
Oh, right, still then?
Yes,
yeah.
And I was invited to go, and I took my children there as well. And I went to have a look at the hall, and it was absolutely burnt down except one part of it, the doors, which were into the ops room. And the map was still there.
was it?
Yes, it was. The table was still there and nothing else. And then, of course, later on, some years after, I went to have a look and it's all gone. The whole lot of it is just flat.
Yeah, it's just been levelled off.
That's right,
now.
yes.
Yeah. All the gardens are fields now. Where
that's right. But there was a bit, just that bit left, I can remember. Yeah. And they said that it was because a WAF left an iron on in one of the attics and went on a 48 hours leave. But I don't know if that's true.
We can tell you now.
Well, at the 90th anniversary, a gentleman from, I think from Sleaford, came up to me and said, look, you might want to contact this person because he told me, no, I'm wrong, sorry, somebody told me that one of his friends swore him to secrecy until he died, that he couldn't tell anybody else the true story, but he'd actually been an electrician who had been working up in the loft of the hall, and he had started the fire in a stack of blankets or something.
Yes.
It wasn't the WAF.
It wasn't the WAF.
That was just the cover story that was put out.
So that's kept a very good secret for 50 years.
Yes, but it was so awful because they couldn't get the water there.
That's right, we're here. Yeah.
Yes, I mean.
It was all wood. And
yes, that's right. I was glad I'd left, because I left. Well, must have been some months before that to come to Honolulu. Yeah.
It's tragic, really, because I mean, you look at the pictures of the hall, which we've got. It's just a stunning building, wasn't it?
It was, absolutely.
Stunning.
Well, I gave you some newspaper cuttings.
That's right, you did. Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Well, you mentioned the Canadians again with the, apricots being flown over from or shipped over from Canada, I suppose. What was your day-to-day food like? Did it change from that, or was there much variety?
There wasn't much variety. No, it was just plain, just ordinary, as far as I can remember.
Yeah.
It seemed all right, yes.
Did you eat better than the civilian population?
I think so. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, it's not anything I thought about, but did you have ration cards, or
we didn't have ration cards.
You didn't have ration. No, the military didn't have ration cards. No. That's right. Yeah, I wouldn't be.
Just help yourself. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not just a throwback. I'm sorry, we're talking about the social scene at the moment. But I just have to take in mind back a second to the operations. You're saying you worked at night as well.
Yes.
Now, obviously, we were directing night fighters out of Digby. That was our big responsibility in 1941 when you were there.
That's right.
So I take it you were actually working the night fighters out of Digby against the German bombers that were coming in. Was that over the sea? Did they go out?
Yes, some of them were over the sea.
It was. So they went some way out to intercept them then. Because this is obviously you had some of the quite famous pilots at Digby, like Guy Gibson.
Yes.
He was at Digby at the time that you were down at the hall.
Yeah.
And it was quite interesting to try and find out exactly how all this worked, because there's not a lot of record of it.
Isn't there?
No. So it was how you did it at night was more or less the same as you did it during the day.
That's right.
There wasn't
That's
a lot
right.
of difference at all. Then, really. Okay.
That's right.